Hey everyone. Okay, so if I'm to understand the mechanics at play with this chapter, and specifically with what's going on with the robot, from my understanding of it, Luffy needs to be in Nika form in order for it to function. The robot cannot function properly. It cannot live, so to speak, with probably without Luffy in Nika form. And I'm not gonna lie, on top of being a rather unique, a rather unique portrayal of the typical friendship trope in shonen, just the idea that just the idea that this robot is it was practically so practically programmed to be dedicated to Nika that it can only function when Nika's around. But on top of that, I also I also I also believe that I do kind of think it does explain a few things towards the idea of why it was in slumber for so long. Like if you remember back when Egghead Island first started, Vegapunk made a note of saying that the robot had remained in slumber for for, for like I forget how long, but it's been like hundreds to maybe I think thousands of years, something like that. And that in itself does kind of explain a few things because the reason why I was in slumber is because Nika hadn't awakened the power of the Gum Gum, the true power of the Gum Gum for power to awaken Joy Boy Nika hadn't awakened either. But now that Nika is awakened, it had found reason in order to wake in order in order to arise again. But now, but with that said, I do admit the whole mechanic of it only functioning properly when Nika is around, like has to be physically around, does feel a little convenient. Like you'd think just as long as the power of Nika is awakened, you'd think it would function properly regardless. But it is what it is, and yeah, in order for but this does kind of offer again that thing I was talking about last week with the idea that yeah he's there's still one little there's still one card left to play, which is to say that Luffy has to remain in Nika form long enough in order for Jacob's transmission in order to finish its broadcast, and because because Luffy's the only one who can keep the giant awake, so to speak. Now, with that said, yeah, obviously the next thing to talk about is the fact that Bonnie at the end of the chapter basically transforms into also uses her power to transform into Nika as well, using her imagination basically. And if it wasn't for the mechanics at play with her power, I would definitely be on board with supposedly a lot of people, I guess, who are calling this bullshit. But because of how I understand her mechanics, the mechanics of her power to be, it does make sense enough, you could say, and it does make I from what we know, Bonnie has seen Luffy transform, so it does make sense in that regard that she would be able to find that she would be able to use her power to transform into something resembling Nika, so to speak. So yeah, in that regard, it works. The question, but I guess the question in all of this though is if with both Bonnie and more importantly Luffy transformed back into Nika now, the the big question is can the how's the giant gonna get back out of the out of the ocean in order to finish its transmission? Because I think that's the other problem with it being kind of sunken beneath the sea now. I don't think it can properly finish its transmission until it gets back onto land. So yeah, that's the first big problem with that we're facing. Although probably one that that could be easily fixable. And yeah, I do, and I do like how we're getting a whole bunch of again, much like with a lot of these chapters at this point, I like we're getting a whole bunch of different perspectives on like what's going on, why did the transmission cut out, and I like how like with a lot of people is like there are obviously people we know who are kind of like naturally blaming Luffy right now, but it's like they're gonna need like even knowing that it's like you think after it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand the reasoning a bit, but you think after what they just heard as well, or enough of what they heard, you'd think they'd be able to deduce that yes, even then, some kind of fuck. You'd think that they would at least kind of blame a little bit on the government here, but it's like, okay, okay, like yeah, I know Luffy's kind of an easy target for shit like that, but seriously, can't put two can't put two and two together. Maybe the government might be involved as well, not just Luffy. But again, I'm splitting hairs here. Um, although although it is although the interesting thing too though with that moment with all the viewers and with all the people viewing into to that broadcast is still how much reverence they from still have for Vegapunk. So it that in itself is gonna be one of those things where it could something that the government could easily twist in their favor if they actually succeed here. Which yeah, I don't I don't I think something still has to go fucking wrong for them in order for this to really in order for this because at this juncture like it's impossible for the government to get completely away with this. So the question is what's gonna go awry because even with something like the reverence of Vegapunk that they can twist around to their favor, there's I have to believe that there's still enough doubt that's going to be in people's minds to like say, okay, we don't 100% trust you, but it's like again, we won't know for sure until all this is said and done as well. Um, and yeah, I do like how we see. I do. I also like how the people who like this like Alabasta and like Dressrosa, for example, were the ones who were kind of like focal points because I think those are going to be the ones who are like, yeah, and especially Koza and Koza's father and whatnot. They're the ones who are like, yeah, you know what? Let's they're the ones who I think are going to be the most like something's amiss here. Um, but and of course, yeah. Aside from that, when getting of course aside from that the only other thing to talk about is that yeah with the supposed with the robot out of commission like the only two left are Atlas and like the government has shifted their focus to Atlas and Lilith and yeah I kind of bid them in a way I kind of bid them good luck with taking those two down because those are the ones who kind of have the most gust to quote Tom gusto you could say and it's I don't think it's going to be easy to especially take Lilith down, honestly. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from my Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, which is notification bell, subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Renee signing off. Later, everyone.